up, YouTube? It's RSMario here, bringing you another Super Nintendo Switch, aka Switch Pro-ish video. Alright, so it looks like pretty weird timing on this story, but right around the time that Bloomberg announced that, 11 companies had dev kits for the Super Nintendo Switch, some copyright stuff popped up. So some trademarks were made, or copyright were filed for two particular technologies that would pertain to at least a more powerful Switch system. So of course, if you want more videos like this from me, like, comment, subscribe. Definitely comment because I like talking to y'all. Hit that bell button because I don't think that YouTube is sending out the videos. The last video I had to pull it down and then put it back up again for the algorithm to pick it up. It was at 0 for like a day. For most of the day, it was at 0. It was crazy. So the algorithm is tripping. So hit the bell if you want to get those notifications that I'm doing the videos. All right, so 2 new Nintendo patents were filed for interesting technologies. The first one is a kind of like a quick resume feature like Xbox has. And this one is interesting because of the kind of like what this would mean for a Switch system. If a new Switch system had this, the system will be considerably more powerful because quick resume requires a SSD. So it requires a solid state drive. Because essentially what is happening is you're playing one game, and so then you pause that game and you stop playing that game. That game's state, or the state of that game, is saved to a solid state drive, or more than likely a partition of a solid state drive. And then you start another game and you play that game, and then say if you want to switch back to the last game you were playing, the system would pull that last game state off of the solid state drive and then play it, and then they would save the one that you were playing to the state drive, the solid state drive, or the partition. And so yeah, that means that the next system would have to have a solid state drive to do this. Now, I'm not saying that the next system is gonna have an SSD, because remember, this is a portable device. I mean, SSDs are small now. You can get some small SSDs, but then that means they would have to change the way the system is cooled, the way the system is powered, because I mean, having an SSD in there is going to eat up more battery power, which means Nintendo's going to have to come up with a better battery. It just complicates things way too much for them to actually put an SSD in the system. Now, the best way to implement something like this would be having a dock that has an SSD in it. That would be interesting, like a Pro dock that has an SSD inside, and you could store games in there. It'll store your game states for your quick resume, and these features will be something that you can do when it's docked. That will be interesting, but I don't think it's going to be on the actual console itself. Not to mention, I think this is more of a let's put this patent on and tuck it away for the future type of deal. But a Pro dock with a SSD will be pretty interesting though, because you can just, instead of having to play like games from the cloud or download games, you could download your digital games to your SSD on your dock, and then you can load what games you want onto your system before you leave. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And then if you wanted to play the games when you're at home, you just play them from the dock with the system dock. I dig that. All right, and the second patent that we'll be talking about today is kind of the big one. So this one relates somewhat to DLSS. Now, of course, I did a video a while back on the rumor that DLSS was going to be a part of the Super Nintendo Switch to allow it to do 4K output in portable mode, which will be very hard. And essentially what DLSS does is uses, like a bunch of software wizardry to make images look way better than they actually do. And so this patent essentially is for a Nintendo version of that. And this came out right around the time Super Nintendo's Switch Pro rumors started to pop up again because of Bloomberg. And it kind of, like cements those rumors because, again, what else would they be doing this for? Now, one thing I do have to point out is these rumors were pointed out in late March of 2020, which is a couple of days after DLSS was announced. So now this brings into context a couple of things as to why this is happening. So one reason why they did this probably was because they were going to make their own proprietary version of DLSS so they wouldn't have to pay licensing fees to NVIDIA, because NVIDIA owns that product. So just like any other type of game engine, like say Unreal Engine is owned by Epic Games, and so if a company wants to use Unreal Engine to make their game, they have to pay a licensing fee to Epic, and they probably have to pay for support and stuff like that. Same thing goes for DLSS. So if somebody wanted to use DLSS on their hardware, they would have to pay a licensing fee to NVIDIA. Nintendo was probably going to create a proprietary version of this so they wouldn't have to do that. And they would be able to just do it on their own. And they would be able to design their own proprietary version specifically for their hardware. So this way there's no hardware constraints, and maybe they don't even have to use NVIDIA if they don't want to. If they wanted to go with an AMD processor or something like that, they could, and still use their own proprietary version of DLSS. Now, will they be using this? We don't know. Since it was copyrighted well over a year ago, it could have been something that an idea that they had, and maybe that it didn't work out right for them, so they're going to use DLSS outright. Or they could actually be willing to use their own version of it for the aforementioned reasons. And I think it's interesting. I think this is super interesting because it means that something else is coming down the line. Now, of course, I was gonna do the it's a grain of salt thing here, but I mean, these are actual patents that are out there. Now, of course, just because they made a patent doesn't mean that they're going to use the patent. There have been thousands of things that have been patented by different companies that have never been used. There is a bug in here. There's like a gnat, and he keeps flying towards my eyeballs. It's bothering me. But yeah, so there are tons of patents that have never been used before by companies. They just have them just in the pocket. So what do you think about this? Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. Give me your opinions. Check out my second channel, and as always, folks, keep it real.